Hello, Mr. Ram. How are you doing today?
Hey Namita, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Are you ready?
For sure.
Okay. Hello and good evening, all. And welcome to GFiT, a virtual IT event conducted by Good Farms. My name is Namita, and I will be your host for today's session. Before starting it, let's get well versed about what GFiT is all about. Considering the current pandemic situation where the physical events are not possible, GoodFirms has introduced GFiT, an IT virtual event that brings service providers and service seekers all together on a single platform in order to get the perfect match for their respective businesses to solve the challenges by employing the latest trends prevailing in the market. I'm sure by now you know that you can enter the questions in the chat window for the session and we will answer those after the session ends. So let's kick things off by introducing the speaker for this session, Mr. Ram Prasad, Director of Product and US Operations at EHealth Now. And he is going to share his knowledge on how technology enabled cross-border collaboration in cancer care. Over to you, Mr. Ram.
Hey Namita, thank you so much for the introduction. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear.
Perfect. Yeah, and thanks Goodfam for having the opportunity to speak at this wonderful event. I think I can start by sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your slides.
That's awesome. So, and it's definitely overwhelming to see so many participants. It shows that how much people care about like cancer. Just give me 1 second. A quick intro about myself. I did my bachelor's in India, then moved to United States to do my master's. And my thesis was focused on this fabricating X-ray mask to do early cancer detection. That was the very first time where I come across like what is cancer and how it impacts like lives. The first part of my career was with companies such as SunGuard and Comcast, where I was mostly doing cloud infrastructure and DevOps engineering. Healthcare and education are two things which are really close to my heart, and I want to like contribute in whatever way possible. So which is when back in November 2016, I along with a couple of other Wharton MBAs, we started this startup called EHealth Now. It's been 3.5 years we are doing this startup. Firstly, I would definitely want to ask all of you, how many of you here were ever touched by the word cancer? Obviously I can't see you guys, so but I assume like most of us in one way or the other way has been touched by the word cancer, including me too. Cancer is a tough diagnosis anywhere in the world, but it's especially tough in China. As you can see, it's very unfortunate that 1/4 of the global cancer population is in China. Currently, there are over 40 million cancer patients in there. And 5 million new cancer patient cases like arise every single year. But even the saddest fact is the average 5-year survival rate is less than 30% in China compared to 70% in the United States. With the same survival rate as United States, in last 5 years, the number of lives would have saved is 16 million, which is huge. So obviously, we can clearly see that there's a huge unmet need and huge market. So there are different business models which evolve to address this particular problem. So these are the three business models which evolved. I'll go one after the other. So the very obvious one is medical tourism model, where there are a lot of these agencies which assist and coordinate patients to travel to overseas. But the problem with that is the treatment cost itself is over $200,000 and upwards. Plus there is logistics and transportation, which might cost another like 40,000 or odd. And the hardest part is the entire coordination by the time when the agency reaches out to the patient, and by the time the patient sees the doctor, it usually takes month to 2 months. And in a lot of the cancer cases, the time is really sensitive. And the most important thing is it's only affordable by probably top 0.2 or 0.3% of the patients. this is the second business model, which is medical second opinion. uh, these days it's pretty much mushrooming. But the problem with medical second opinion is, again, these agencies, what they do, they try to connect the patient with the physician in the United States, which is great. They get to discuss the patient case, and the physician in the United States give them a piece of paper with a written opinion saying that this treatment might be beneficial. But then what happens? The patient is only left with a piece of paper. Then the patient goes to his treating physician, his or her treating physician, and then the treating physician says, what should I do with this particular paper? So it's really inconsistent in terms of the quality. And the third one, which all these like top institutions in the United States, they're trying to extend their arm in the developing nations, such as like India or be it in China. So, but again, the problem is it's brick and mortar, it's not scalable, it cannot serve the needs of the large population of patients. And the other part is it's really expensive in terms of the care. So, which is when I and my colleagues, like who I mentioned, like both of Wharton MBS, we try to understand what the problem is and how we can address these particular problems. So, firstly, we try to understand what is lacking right now in, be it in China, be it in India, like what's lacking that they're not able to give this US standard of care. The first aspect is obviously the US treating physician is not involved. Like United States, a government of United States spends billions and billions of dollars in terms of research and development. They are far ahead in terms of like US FDA therapies or like advancements in like a lot of these clinical trials. So definitely the expertise from US physician is lacking. What's the second aspect? The second aspect is US FDA therapies, which is not available locally. So and the coordination between US and Chinese physician, which is when we try to understand like who are the different parties involved and how we can integrate all those parties in this in a single platform. So this is a four bubble structure which we try to follow, and it's been working for last 3 years, and we have helped like hundreds and hundreds of patients. So how we do? We have partnered with over 1,000 oncologists in the United States. We have partnered with over 50 hospitals in China, and we have built our own custom EHR platform just for the needs of oncology. And we have built a local cancer delivery network for any kind of follow-up care. In next couple of minutes, I'll walk you guys through how the entire like service process works. But using this four-step process, we were able to save over 80% of cost compared to the traditional medical tourism to the United States. By using this particular model, first thing, which is again very important thing, is like it's affordable by a very big majority of population right now. Second thing, it's very time efficient. Instead of like when we do the medical tourism, from the time of coordination to seeing the doctor, which usually takes like 2 months, this thing takes now probably like within 7 to 10 business days. We actually schedule our first consult. Not only schedule, but the first consultation actually happens. And the quality is really great because both the treating physician and the physician in the United States, they all jump on the call. This is a competitive landscape. There are like so many competitors out there, including hospitals as well. But as I mentioned, again, most of these fall under either the medical tourism or the medical second opinion category. So here is an example of how our service process works. So we have channel partners. We have these top hospitals partnered with top hospitals in China. We have partnered with top insurance companies in China. So we get patient referral from either the hospital or the insurance company. Once we get the patient referral, our case manager, both in United States and in China, who are medically trained and medically professional, they collect all of the medical information. Then our customer support team assists them to upload all of the medical information to our EHR platform. And once we upload and review all of the medical information, we recommend them, okay, these are the top 3 oncologists who might help you review this particular case and who might be the best fit for your case. And upon the referral, the patient gets to choose upon his or her research, like which oncologist he or they want to go. And once they pick the US oncologist, within the next 3 to 5 business days, we make sure that we schedule the consultation between the US physician and the Chinese physician. And within 7 to 10 business days, we make sure that the consultation actually happens. So what happens next? So now the US physician, the Chinese physician, and the patient, They all form a virtual tumor board. They discuss the patient case, they finalize the treatment plan, and once the treatment plan is finalized, what next? So as I mentioned, we partner with these top 50 hospitals. The patient gets to get his or her treatment delivery at one of these our partnered hospitals. And for instance, let's say the local region, be it Beijing or Shanghai, they doesn't have this FDA therapies. What happens next? So we have partnered with this other hospital called Hainan Goa Super Specialty Hospital within the region of Hainan, which is a pilot region where one can legally secure US FDA therapies. We send these patients to Hainan Goa Super Specialty Hospital to receive the follow-up care, if in case they need the US FDA therapies. So I think, yeah, this is one of the case study. In almost like 70 to 80% of our cases, we always see a deviation in the current plan to the new plan. But this is how this is one of the case like retinoblastoma. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's a cancer in the eye. Usually, it's very much prevalent in the children under the age of 4 years, and the local treatment is always or most of the times is to do the surgery of the eye. But the problem with the surgery of the eye is the child gets blindness, which is always not the best option. But whereas in the United States, we use a different chemotherapy such as like melphalan and intraartery treatment to treat this particular RB case. And using this particular treatment plan, in 90 to 95% of the case, the kid gets to retain his or her vision, and they can play happily with their friends, with their family, and they get to lead a very normal life. So, but what's the problem? As I mentioned earlier, again, if a family needs to come to United States and get this particular treatment, it costs 300,000 and upwards in logistics, treatment, and transportation, all of those costs, and it's not affordable by all of the patients, obviously. So what we do, the same service process which I mentioned earlier, we follow this hybrid mechanism where the local hospital and the physician in the United States, they come together, they discuss, they discuss like what would be the ideal treatment for this particular thing, like how is it intraartery, is it, or like some kind of like, is it chemo, or like what kind of treatment we can give in this particular case. And then once the diagnosis, with the recommendation of the US physician, the patient gets to go to the Hainan and receive this care. So using our process, we have brought like hope and light to, or like thousands and thousands of patients of who are actually suffering with our retinoblastoma. In terms of our network, because again, I think it's even in the United States, we can see a disparity of care between top 10 versus like top 100 or like those hospitals. So we try to partner with almost always the top 10 or top 15 or top 20 hospitals in the United States. Our oncology network usually comes from these top hospitals such as like Penn Medicine, Johns Hopkins, and City of Hope. In China, we follow like two-way structure. One thing is we have a consultation center within the hospital. We partner with top 25 hospital, including Beijing 301 or Peking Union Medical Hospital. These are MD Anderson or MSK version of China. And for the local cancer delivery network, once let's say the patient gets all the care, the treatment is done, but usually the patients come from either tier 2 or tier 3 cities, and they tend to travel to these tier 1 cities to get this particular treatment. But what next once the treatment is done? We make sure that the follow-up care happens within the local area. So we form this local cancer delivery network of 68 hospitals in China in key geographics. Also, recently, like last year, August, we have pivoted from subscription, not pivoted, we're doing still both subscription and self-paid and subscription. But we quite recently have started this subscription-based model, and we have partnered with 2 insurance companies and another 10 insurance companies. Almost we're finalizing a contract to go live probably in Q1 2021, which gives us access to over 190 million lives. How we enable all of these things. So a technology component is really, really important. Even though China doesn't have such thing as HIPAA, but we make sure like we follow all of the HIPAA standard and the patient privacy regulations. And not only that, I work closely with doctors we don't use any APIs such as like Epic or Cerner. Our EHR platform is just custom to the needs of the patient, where they can have all of the DICOM imaging, all of the PET imaging, and they can have their demographic patient. So whatever the information the doctor wants to review when he or she is reviewing a patient case, all of the information pertaining to oncology is in the platform. Obviously, our platform uses WebRTC video consultation, where when the virtual tumor board happens, they get to discuss the patient. Then we have a follow-up mechanism, and for the follow-up care also, like any doctor, if and when they get to access our platform, they can access entire patient medical history and medical chart to make a proper recommendations. We are in the process of integrating machine learning and artificial intelligence to automatically translate from Chinese to English and English to Chinese, so that it will save like a lot of time. So our technology is really a key component in facilitating all of these services. So what's unique about our business model? It's it's beneficial for all the stakeholders involved in there. First thing, patient. I think for the first time, the patient has the hope that two doctors across the oceans can actually review his or her case and make recommendations. And it's affordable compared to the traditional solutions, and and it's definitely like very much consistent in terms of the quality. For Chinese expert and the US expert, for the Chinese expert, now they can actually collaborate with the US expert. Like each and every consult in itself is a kind of a academic exchange, where they get to learn from each other, like what are the different trends, or how their day-to-day operations are, or their day-to-day treatments are. And for Chinese hospital and the US hospital, it's a way, for Chinese hospital, it's a way to increase their brand, increase their credibility. For the US hospital, it's we kind of act as a PR or a branding arm to expand into this international geographics. For insurance companies, it's really important. I think countries in China or in India, insurance are not as mature as it is in the United States, and they're mushrooming a lot. There are like a lot of these insurance companies are coming up, but the users who it's getting tough and tough for them to onboard users onto their platforms. So they need an incentive, and they need some kind of like unique offerings which they can propose to their users. So we offer a perfect incentive and opportunity for them to offer to their users. Now they can claim that they not only give this healthcare service within their local country, but also they can offer this healthcare services from overseas as well. It's a very attractive benefit for them to sell to the users. So all of the stakeholders who involved in our process, they all benefit from our business solution. So if you guys are interested, this business model, as I mentioned, we follow two-way approach. One is self-paid, where the patient pays completely out of pocket. Usually a consultation varies from anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, depends on various circumstances. And the second model is insurance, which is subscription-based model. It's a per member, per year model. The price depends on how we are negotiating a contract with the insurance company. If it's a one consult, three consult per year, how much we are capping, it varies anywhere from like $5 to like $25 per year per user. Since we launched in November 2016, we have gained quite a traction. As I mentioned, we have partnered with over 1,300 oncologists in the United States. We have partnered with over like 60 hospitals in China. So far, we have served over 700 patients on our platform. And till the end of last year, we have did a revenue of like million. In terms of fundraising, we did close to 3 million in our pre-A fundraising. Currently, we are doing our Series A fundraising. And insurance contract, as I mentioned, we only started live last year. And by Q1 next year, we're going to have like 12 to 15, like out of top 20 insurance carrier providers within China. And numerous press and publications have spoken about us previously. And we have won like numerous competitions, such as like Wharton Innovation Fund, Air Force Research Laboratory competition, and there are like other competitions as well. But what's most important to us, more than this awards and traction, the most important thing is the testimonies which we receive from our patients. patients really love us for the fact, as I mentioned, that for the first time they have two physicians across the oceans who completely bring a different skill set, can together work on their case. So it's huge for patients, which is the fact we love the most. And oncologists in the United States, they're happy to help these patients. And the other part is like now they have access to a rare set of cancers which they can understand, which enhance like their ability to understand a different set of cancer cases. It would not have been possible without our amazing team. So you guys already know me. So Kaylee Shu, who is a CEO, she's a Wharton MBA. She previously led a billion-dollar Disney venture with China. She leads all of our operations in China. Dr. Vinay Kumar, he's MD MBA from Wharton. He's currently a resident physician at Mayo Clinic. He helped expand our oncology network within the United States. I lead clinical and US operation, and we have some amazing advisor across the board, like from pharmacies, from academia, from hospitals, from industry. So without our incredible team, we wouldn't have like reached so far. I think one thing throughout the experience from last 3 years, which I understood is like being part of the startup, I learned a lot about like legal compliance, technology, building MVPs, like all of those things, like because we have built from 0 to 1. And also I have been part of the judging panel for various conferences such as like Wharton Startup Challenge and Techstars, and like a few other competitions. I have built so many of I have reviewed like so many business models for various startups, which is when one of my colleague who previously like did consulting and is kind of like expertise in building products from like 0 to 1. So I have collaborated with him, and I was like, this is our time to contribute to the startup community, like mentor different startups, help them how they can build products from 0 to 1, which is when I started this Falcon Lab along with my colleague Michael Lu. So all we do is like we help startups. If they come up with just a basic idea, we help them like what's the ideal solution for them to build, like how they can actually do the pilots. So we have built, again, we follow the hybrid model. We have built this hybrid team in India and in the United States. We have some amazing engineers in US, and we have some amazing team in India as well. So we take in these startups, and we are trying to understand what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do the pilot, or is like a complete launch. Depends on the requirements. We try to facilitate what's the best option and what's the ideal option based on their budget and their needs. So, and we also like mentor these startups, like how they can actually get into this accelerator, or what's the ideal route for them to like do the initial fundraising, like, or is it good to just to have family fundraising, like all of those aspects we try to do. So I'll be more than happy to take any questions, and I'll try my best to answer any and all of your questions. And for some reason, if I'm not able to, feel free to email me. I would love to schedule a call to discuss those questions further with you guys. And here is my contact information, and that's my colleague's contact information for Falcon Lab. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad, to share your knowledge about cancer care. And there is one question a participant has asked, that what are the issues that you faced in bringing the experts from two countries and insurance companies on a single platform?
Let me just really see that. Okay, so thanks for the question. So the question is, what are the issues that you faced in being the expert from two countries and insurance companies on a single platform? Okay, so I think it's a myth initially when we started. That's a good question, by the way. Initially, when we started, people were like, "Oh, it's hard to get US oncologists on board. It's hard to, it's hard and hard." But it's not true. It's actually the other way around. Like in US, like doctors are really willing to help. Like, and obviously, it is the fact that when you're paying such high amounts, the compensation is really high, right, for these doctors. But to bring US experts on board, we didn't face much difficulties. But yes, to in China, things work based on the relationships, how you build. So one thing which we personally felt with our experience over the like first year or year and a half, if you're trying to get, let's say, hospitals in tier 2 or even in the United States, like doctors in like tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, it's tough for you to go from down to up. So what we did, we almost spent 6 months or 7 months like picking union hospital and the Beijing 301 hospital, which are the top 1 and top 2 hospital in China, which is like MD Anderson and Johns Hopkins version of China. So we spent 6 to 8 months making the connections, forming the relationship with the hospital, and convincing the hospital to do the pilot with us. And once we secured the partnership with that that hospital, after that, rest all hospitals are just like trying to. It's like we formed this MACD kind of model where the hospitals like came to us to form put a logo and our particular office within their hospital. So I would say like it's always we need to follow this top down approach whenever it's possible. It's okay to spend months or like even whatever the longer time, but if you can bring on board the top partner to and convince the people to do pilot or work with you guys, then it makes really easier to bring other partners. And the second part of your question was from 2 countries and insurance companies on a single platform. These are again two countries. So insurance companies, we are not onboarding insurance companies from United States. These insurance companies are in China. So that shouldn't be an issue. We haven't faced like any trouble in terms of like bringing insurance companies and hospitals onto the same platform, because as I mentioned, insurance companies are mushrooming in the country, and they are just trying to offer as much as possible the healthcare offerings to onboard users, but adding this particular incentive of bringing in these overseas experts or overseas services onto their platform, they're actually more happy to offer our services. I don't know if I answered your question. If you have follow up, please feel free to like ask the second question. Okay, so there's one question from Jazz, which is has the current COVID-19 situation and back out China campaigns on various nationals and international platform business activities. Okay. Sure. So it's again a great question. So the question was basically what's going on between the US and China relationship and the current COVID situation, how it's impacting, I think, the cross-border thing. I think in terms of like various business and regulations perspective, maybe, but when it comes to clinical needs, we still didn't see any impact on the clinical needs. Like the doctors are still, to give you a context, like one of the consult which we did recently, the doctor specifically at the end of the consult, he stressed this so much that the relationship is going to continue and there's not going to be any impact within the domain of clinical research and or this academic exchange. So once this, and we have like a lot of plans of bringing these doctors into China for this like conferences and other things. And once things settle down in terms of like COVID and other things, I think things will get back to normal. But we are not seeing any impact on a business activity, at least within the clinical space. I really can't talk about the other spaces. Okay, there's another question. Transferring patients from one country to other became a nightmare in the last few months due to pandemic and lockdowns all across. How did you help the patients in financial difficulties or additional? No, this is a great question, right? That's the whole point. First thing, when you're trying to like do this, your question was specifically about medical tourism. When you're trying to like transfer patients from one country to other, the logistics, transportation, the whole thing takes, it is a nightmare. It takes like over a month, 2 months just to see the doctor for the first time. So that's the whole point why we have started this thing. The whole point is to localize the treatment and bring the best standard of care wherever it's available within the world. So not our intentions are not only limiting to United States. Like we actually collaborated already with few doctors in United Kingdom and in Germany. So our intentions are to like wherever the best care available, just localize the treatment. Make sure the local physician at the hospital level, not at the physician level. Local physician at the hospital level get to interact with these doctors, understand what their treatments are, and then finalize a treatment plan. And then the second thing which I mentioned, if they can't access, like all the countries have their own regulations of accessing FDA therapies, be it be US, be it be UK, or be it be Germany. It's just to understand what's the proper channel to access those FDA therapies within their particular local region. Yeah, it is a lot of supply chain involved. To again add more context to it, for instance, we have partnered with a pharmacy in Switzerland. We have partnered with a pharmacy in Singapore. Then we have partnered with a pharmacy in Hainan. So we have created this entire supply chain where the drugs, the FDA therapies can move from one place to the other legally. There are like a lot of these contractual agreements which gets involved and then goes to the hospital. So localization can be done. Initially, when we started this thing, we also thought it's tough because of the whole like cross-border factor, this transfer of patient data, all of those things. But it can be done. I think we can be testament. We have served over 700 patients on a platform. Any other questions?
Well, that's really nice of you for answering all of the questions for participants. I have a question for you. Like, I want to know what clinical trials are available for cancer and where are they located and how one can find about them.
So we surely facilitate. So it completely depends on, like, clinical trials available in almost like all of the cancer. Like it happens all the time. Like there are a lot of like PIs who investigate a lot of these clinical trials, and we have, as I mentioned, a lot of this physician at all the top hospitals. If you just like reach out to us at, you can just reach out to me like Ram at ehealthnowsolutions.com. I will get you in touch with one of our clinical director. So the first thing is like we will review your case. We'll make sure that case gets passed on to one of the relevant oncologists in the United States. And once he or she reviews it, then the doctor himself or herself is going to recommend which clinical trial. Actually, by the way, that's a great question. So there are a couple of examples where that a lot of times it's hard to even get enrolled in the clinical trials. So once you build this reputation, this rapport with this oncologist in the US, the doctor himself or herself is going to refer the patient to enroll in the clinical trial. The chances of getting enrolled becomes like really, really high once it comes from referral from the physician himself. But yeah,
Well,
feel free to reach out to me. I can definitely put you in touch with whoever the right person is.
Thank you so much for answering my question. And still, if the audience has some queries or questions, then they can definitely reach out to you. And we really appreciate your being here, Mr. Ram. Thanks again for joining us today and giving your precious time. Thank you
No,
so much.
always. Yeah, thanks so much for having me to speak.